Night City did not announce itself. It didn't need to. The city bled into the horizon like a living scar. Steel and neon stacked so high they blocked the stars, smog hanging low like a permanent bruise across the sky. Lightning flashed far offshore, illuminating towers shaped like blades and needles, monuments to corporations that had outlived governments. Into this sprawl, something arrived that did not belong. Batman came down between two mega buildings without sound. No thrusters, no light, just gravity, muscle, and a grapnel retracting smoothly into his gauntlet as his boots met the rooftop. Rain slid across matte black armor, beading and running off like oil. His cape settled behind him, heavy and dark, absorbing the city's glow instead of reflecting it. Bruce Wayne stood still and listened. Night City was louder than Gotham, not in volume, but in density. There were too many signals layered on top of each other. Gunfire echoing off concrete canyons, arguments bleeding through thin walls, sirens that meant nothing anymore, encrypted corporate chatter bouncing between towers, neural implants pinging and repinging as people fought to stay connected, relevant, alive. Crime here wasn't chaotic. It was organized. Batman's cowl adjusted automatically, filtering data pouring in from every direction. Facial recognition systems tried and failed to classify the city's population. Too much chrome, too many aftermarket modifications, too many faces rebuilt into something almost human. No central authority, Bruce thought. Just contracts. That realization settled heavily. Gotham had criminals who believed in something twisted: fear, chaos, power. Night City's criminals believed in payment schedules. He moved. A single leap carried him across the gap between buildings. He landed on a fire escape, then dropped 6 stories without breaking stride, vanishing into an alley that smelled of coolant, trash, and desperation. Within seconds, he found violence. 3 men in patchwork armor had a woman pinned against a wall, her cyberware flickering erratically. One held a pistol too casually. Another laughed while rummaging through her pockets. The third kept watch, optics scanning for threats that didn't exist. They never heard him. Batman took the lookout first, an elbow to the base of the skull, precise enough to sever consciousness without killing. The man crumpled before he could scream. The second turned just in time to see a black shape emerge from the rain. His pistol came up halfway before a batarang shattered the weapon's firing mechanism. A knee strike folded him instantly. The last man froze, fear finally cutting through the drugs and bravado. "Please," he started. Batman grabbed him by the collar and slammed him into the wall hard enough to rattle nearby windows. Not lethal, never lethal, but unforgettable. "Leave," Batman said. The word wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The man ran. Batman turned to the woman. Her breathing was shallow. Fear had overloaded her implants. Warning symbols danced across her retinas. "It's over," he said calmly. "You're safe." She stared at him, eyes wide, trying to process the shape in front of her. "What are you?" she whispered. Batman paused for half a second. "A problem," he said. He vanished before she could ask anything else. By the time dawn threatened the horizon, Batman had already cataloged more crime than most cities saw in a week. Scavengers stripping bodies for cyberware, gangs enforcing corporate debt, fixers selling people like inventory. Night City wasn't broken. It was functioning exactly as designed. Batman perched atop a half-abandoned mega block and accessed local networks through a bypass had jury-rigged from stolen components within the first hour of arrival. Firewalls folded under sustained pressure. Security AIs tried to adapt, failed. Information flooded in. Fixer networks, payment routes, corporate-backed gang hierarchies, kill-order subcontracts signed with digital fingerprints that led straight to boardrooms. Bruce Wayne's jaw tightened. In Gotham, criminals hid behind fear and chaos. Here, they hid behind terms of service. Good, he thought. Systems can be dismantled. Night City noticed him by mid-morning. Not the civilians. Most barely looked up. In Night City, survival meant ignoring miracles. But fixers noticed gigs going dark. Gangs noticed men disappearing without bloodshed. NCPD drones recorded interference they couldn't explain. Patterns emerged. A solo that didn't take eddies. A ghost that disabled weapons instead of bodies. A presence that left warnings instead of corpses. Rumors spread fast. Some called him a rogue corpo experiment. Others said he was a netrunner, myth made flesh. A few whispered older words. Vigilante, guardian, terms that felt almost obscene in this city. Batman listened and adjusted. By the second night, he changed tactics. Fear alone wouldn't work here. Too many people already lived in it. So he attacked infrastructure. He hijacked fixer accounts mid-gig, redirecting funds to victims before contracts could complete. He sabotaged gang weapon caches, replacing ammunition with inert rounds that failed silently when fired. He leaked partial data, just enough, to trigger internal betrayals among corporate-backed crews. No spectacle, no speeches, just pressure. Night City responded the only way it knew how, with escalation. Arasaka's security analytics flagged the anomaly first. Crime suppression without authorization. Interference without cyberware signatures. A combat profile that defied classification. Inside a glass tower, high above Corpo Plaza, executives watched slowed footage of a black-clad figure dismantling a gang in seconds. No implants, one analyst said quietly. No neural lag, no external power source. That's not possible, another replied. Arasaka did not believe in impossibilities. They believed in ownership. Find him, an executive ordered. Alive, if possible. Militech noticed soon after. So did Netwatch, though later because Batman wanted it that way. He left false trails, phantom pings, digital shadows that led observers in circles. Let them watch. Let them guess. Let them be wrong. Batman stood on a rooftop overlooking Watson as the city pulsed beneath him. Neon lights reflected off wet concrete. Somewhere below, a gunshot rang out. Then another. He could stop it. He would. But for the first time since arriving, Bruce Wayne allowed himself a moment of doubt. Night City wasn't Gotham. Gotham had laws, even when they failed. It had a population that still believed things could change. Night City had accepted the opposite. Here, hope was a liability. You can't save a system built to eat its people, a voice in his memory whispered. Bruce clenched his fist. He'd heard that voice before, in Gotham, in worse places, in himself. A scream cut through the night, sharp, desperate, close. Batman didn't hesitate. He launched himself into the darkness. Night City didn't know it yet, but something fundamental had changed. Not because a hero had arrived, but because a man who refused to look away had decided this city was his problem now. And Batman never stopped once he made that choice. Part 3-2. A vigilante without chrome. Night City woke up angry. By the second night, word had spread far enough to harden into something more than rumor. Gangs complained to fixers. Fixers complained to corporations. Corporations began asking why money was vanishing. Weapons were failing. And entire operations were collapsing without gunfights or explosions. Someone was interfering. Someone precise. Batman moved through the city like an absence. He learned fast. Faster than the city expected. Cyberpunk crime depended on chrome, on reaction time, on enhanced perception, on neural acceleration that made violence feel effortless. But cyberware had weaknesses: latency, overheating, dependence on software, reliance on predictable patterns. Batman exploited all of it. In Kabuki, A maelstrom cell attempted to ambush him in a narrow market alley, their optics locked on instantly, threat indicators flaring across their vision. Too late. A cloud of matte black smoke detonated between them, saturating the alley with electromagnetic interference. Targeting systems flickered. HUDs glitched. Audio implants screamed feedback. Batman was already inside the smoke. A pressure point strike collapsed one attacker's enhanced nervous system. A grapnel yanked another into a steel support beam hard enough to knock him unconscious. A third tried to activate a mantis blade, only to discover its control firmware had been overwritten seconds earlier. The fight lasted 11 seconds. Batman was gone in 9. When the smoke cleared, 4 bodies lay breathing on the ground, their cyberware temporarily disabled. A message scrolled across each of their retinal displays in blocky white text. Upgrade your morality. Fixers began to panic. Gigs failed without warning. Contracts were interrupted mid-execution. Clients demanded refunds. Some mercenaries refused jobs outright after encountering the black-clad figure who disabled their weapons and vanished without killing anyone. That detail unsettled them the most. In Night City, mercy wasn't a strategy. It was a malfunction. Batman observed it all from above. He perched on antennae, ledges, half-constructed towers, studying patterns. He mapped fixer influence zones, traced gang affiliations to corporate subsidiaries, and overlaid crime heat maps with financial flows. This city didn't run on fear. It ran on incentives. So he attacked those instead. In Santo Domingo, Batman intercepted a data courier transporting encrypted debt contracts, digital chains binding entire families to corporate servitude. He didn't destroy the data. He released it. By morning, hundreds of people learned the truth. Their debts were illegal, artificially inflated, designed never to be repaid. Riots didn't break out. Night City wasn't built that way. But people stopped complying. That was worse. In Pacifica, he sabotaged a black market cyberware shipment by subtly altering firmware. No explosions, no poison, just gradual degradation, malfunctions during non-lethal use, failures that made gangs unreliable and expensive. Fixers adjusted prices upward. Clients hesitated. Crime slowed. Night City reacted. It always did. NCPD drones increased patrol density, but Batman avoided them effortlessly, piggybacking on blind spots and timing gaps. Netwatch deployed counter-intrusion programs, but Batman never stayed long enough for them to lock on. Then the mercenaries escalated. A group of high-end solos took the bounty quietly. Smart guns, reflex boosters, subdermal armor, professionals who'd survived worse than rumors. They cornered Batman in an abandoned transit hub beneath the city. 10 of them. They expected a fight. Batman shut off the lights, infrared, then ultraviolet, then nothing. He moved through the darkness like a collapsing shadow. EMP pulses dropped Chrome systems offline in cascading waves. Smart guns locked up. Muscle enhancements spasmed violently. One merc fired blindly and hit his own teammate. Batman disabled them one by one. Broken arms, shattered weapons, unconscious bodies dragged into corners. The leader, bleeding from a cracked visor, crawled backward in terror. "You're not human," he gasped. Batman crouched in front of him. "No," he said, evenly. "I am disciplined." He vanished. The mercs lived, but none of them ever took another job in Watson. By the third night, Arasaka stopped pretending this was coincidence. Inside a fortified command room, security analysts studied projections of Batman's movements. "He doesn't take money," one said. "He doesn't kill," another added. "He doesn't stay in one district long enough to trap." An executive leaned back slowly. "He's not a mercenary," she said. "He's a variable." Militech disagreed with Arasaka on many things. Not this. Both corporations reached the same conclusion independently. This man could not be bought, which meant he had to be broken. Batman knew the escalation was coming. He felt it in the city's rhythm. More drones, tighter patrols, heavier hardware moving into civilian zones under the excuse of security. He adjusted routes, altered tactics, refined countermeasures. Still, something gnawed at him. Night City's criminals weren't afraid. They were annoyed. Fear required belief that consequences mattered. Here, consequences were just another cost. Batman stood on a rain-soaked ledge overlooking a mega building stacked with thousands of lives. He listened to arguments bleeding through walls, to a man crying quietly as he loaded a pistol, to a woman negotiating with an AI debt collector that didn't understand mercy. For the first time, Bruce Wayne felt something close to frustration. You can't scare a city that already expects to die, he thought. But fear wasn't his only weapon. Hope wasn't either. What Night City lacked wasn't courage. It lacked accountability, and Batman was very good at introducing that. The turning point came quietly. A mid-level fixer named Rourke issued a contract to eliminate a family that couldn't repay interest on a corporate loan. Standard Night City procedure. Batman intercepted the hit team before they reached the apartment. He disabled them, then did something different. He didn't leave. He waited. Rourke arrived personally, furious, shouting into his comms. Batman stepped out of the shadows. Rourke froze. "You're ruining my business," the fixer snapped, trying to sound in control. "You think this matters? Someone else will do the job." Batman grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Not crushing, not choking. Just enough to make the message impossible to ignore. "Then I'll come for them too," Batman said calmly. "And the ones after them, and the ones above you." Rourke's bravado cracked. "You can't stop this," he whispered. "The core," Batman leaned closer. "I don't have to stop everything," he said. "Just you." Rourke was found alive hours later, tied to a light pole in Corpo Plaza. His personal data, contracts, bribes, kill orders, played on loop across nearby holo ads for exactly 30 seconds before disappearing, long enough. By morning, 3 fixers vanished. By evening, 5 gangs paused operations. Night City didn't feel safer, but it felt watched, and for the first time in a very long time, someone was watching the right people. Part 3. When the corporations notice. Night City had tolerated Batman as long as it thought he was a localized inconvenience, a rumor, a glitch, a mercenary with unusual preferences. That illusion shattered the moment corporate revenue projections dipped. Inside Arasaka Tower, silence settled over a boardroom built to intimidate nations. Floor-to-ceiling glass revealed the city below, alive with motion, neon arteries pulsing through concrete flesh. Normally, this view inspired confidence. Tonight, it inspired irritation. A senior analyst broke the silence. Profit loss across 5 districts, small individually, significant when aggregated. Cause? An executive asked, already knowing the answer. Operational interference. Gangs refusing contracts. Fixers going dark. Mercenary compliance down 12%. Another analyst added, all incidents correlate with the same anomaly. The screen shifted. Grainy footage. A black silhouette, a cape dissolving into shadow. He doesn't kill, the analyst said, but he disables assets permanently. Arasaka did not tolerate permanent losses. He's not attacking us directly, one executive said. He's undermining confidence. That's worse, another replied. Militech reached the same conclusion an hour later. In a fortified bunker outside the city, generals and corporate strategists studied similar footage. Their tone was less offended, more curious. No cyberware, no implants, a scientist said. Reaction time exceeds enhanced human limits. A bioweapon? A general asked. No known augmentation, no synthetic markers. The general leaned back slowly. Then he's proof that our model isn't absolute. Militech didn't fear vigilantes. They feared alternatives. Batman felt the shift before the first trap was set. The city's background noise changed. Patrol drones flew tighter formations. Surveillance cameras tracked movement with more purpose. Encrypted corp traffic surged, layered and dense, trying to isolate a pattern that refused to sit still. They're coordinating now, Bruce thought. He adjusted. He stopped operating where they expected. The first attempt came in Westbrook. A fixer issued a public bounty, intentionally loud, intentionally sloppy. Batman saw through it immediately. The contract wasn't meant to be fulfilled. It was bait. He followed it anyway. The ambush unfolded on a skybridge connecting two luxury towers. 15 mercenaries, top tier. Smart guns synced to shared targeting networks. Netrunners hidden in nearby apartments, ready to overload his nervous system. Batman didn't step onto the bridge. He cut the supports. The skybridge collapsed in a controlled failure, snapping cables and dumping mercenaries into safety nets deployed by their own contingency systems. No fatalities, no collateral damage. Confusion rippled through the network. Batman used the moment to move. He hit the netrunners first, silent entries through windows, precision strikes that disabled neural rigs without frying synapses. Then he turned the Merc's own systems against them, feeding false data, phantom targets, and delayed feedback loops. By the time Arasaka realized the trap had failed, Batman was gone. The second attempt was quieter. Netwatch. They didn't deploy mercenaries or guns. They deployed silence. Batman's next infiltration, an Arasaka-backed data vault, felt wrong the moment he breached the outer perimeter. No alarms, no response. Too clean. He paused. A second later, the net collapsed around him. Digital darkness. Every signal cut. Every network dead. Even ambient wireless noise vanished. A Netwatch isolation field. Batman's HUD flared warning symbols, then shut down entirely as he manually killed external connections. He was blind, digitally speaking. Footsteps echoed. Arasaka operatives emerged from the darkness, heavy armor absorbing stray light. Not firing, waiting. A voice spoke from the shadows, amplified and calm. "You've been difficult to track," it said, "but all systems have limits." Batman moved. Flashbangs detonated, flooding the room with blinding white light and disorienting sound. Smoke followed. Grapnels fired. The operatives opened fire, but their rounds struck nothing but afterimages. Batman fought without tech. Elbows, knees, momentum, environment. He used walls, pillars, shadows. He turned their formation against itself, forcing friendly fire, collapsing lines of sight, driving panic where discipline had been expected. When the smoke cleared, 5 operatives lay unconscious. Netwatch's field dropped. Batman vanished. That was when Arasaka changed strategy. Containment was no longer the objective. Deterrence was. A message went out through channels most people never saw. Unauthorized vigilante designation. Hostile actor. Engagement rules updated. Lethal force authorized. Night City shifted again. Heavier weapons appeared on the streets. Experimental tech moved from testing to deployment. Corporate kill teams stopped pretending they were security. Batman had crossed the invisible line. The confrontation came in Pacifica. An entire block went dark. Power, communications, everything. Batman arrived seconds later, knowing exactly why. Arasaka kill team. 8 operatives in prototype armor designed to counter non-augmented targets. Predictive movement algorithms. Adaptive armor plating. Neural dampeners meant to scramble human reaction times. Batman studied them from above. They built this to fight me, he thought. Too late. The fight was brutal, not fast, not clean. Batman adapted in real time, using environmental hazards, exposed wiring, unstable concrete, collapsing floors. He baited their predictive systems, forcing them to overcorrect. He used sound, light, and timing to break synchronization. One operative managed to land a hit, hard enough to crack armor plating. Batman felt it. Pain registered. Damage acknowledged. He didn't slow. He ended the fight by turning their leader's command module against them, issuing a single override command that locked every suit in place. They stood frozen as Batman walked past them. "You don't understand what you're fighting," he said quietly, "and that makes you dangerous." He left them alive. Arasaka took note. By the fourth night, Batman wasn't just an anomaly. He was a case study. Corporate analysts stopped asking who he was. They started asking how many like him could exist, how many systems could fail if others followed, how many people would stop obeying if fear stopped working. Those questions frightened them more than any vigilante ever could. Batman stood on a rooftop overlooking Corpo Plaza, watching security convoys move like chess pieces below. "They're not after me anymore," he realized. "They're afraid of the idea." The city hadn't broken yet, but it was bending, and corporations hated bending, because bends eventually become fractures. Batman tightened his cape around himself and stepped into the darkness. The war had begun, and Night City had finally chosen its side. Part 4. Batman versus the Mercenary Economy. Night City adapted quickly. It always did. When fear failed, it monetized violence. When order cracked, it outsourced enforcement. When a problem couldn't be erased quietly, it was flooded with bodies until it drowned. Batman had broken the first rule of the city, so the city responded with its second: mercenaries. Not gangs, not security, not soldiers following orders, professionals. Fixers reopened channels they hadn't used in years. Prices climbed fast. Risk multipliers doubled, then tripled. Contracts changed wording, from neutralize to eliminate, from discourage to terminate with prejudice. Batman became the most expensive bounty in Night City history, and the mercenary economy surged. They hunted him for different reasons. Some wanted the eddies, some wanted the reputation, some wanted to prove that flesh still beat myth. Batman treated them all the same. He didn't wait for them to come to him. He dismantled the market itself. The first major disruption happened in Haywood. A fixer named Valens had consolidated multiple contracts, coordinating a citywide sweep using 30 independent merc teams. The idea was simple: saturate the city, flush Batman into the open, overwhelm him. Batman found Valens first. The fixer was in a reinforced penthouse, surrounded by bodyguards and layered security. Batman breached through the balcony, silently disabling sensors mid-descent. Valens didn't even look up from his holo display. "You're late," the fixer said casually. "You know how many people are looking for you?" Batman walked forward slowly. "You turned murder into a subscription service," he said. Valens smiled thinly. "Supply and demand." Batman slammed Valens into his own desk, hard enough to crack the surface. "Cancel the contracts," Batman said. Valens laughed, blood trickling from his lip. "You think that stops it? There's always another fixer." Batman leaned in. "Then you'll be the example." He didn't kill Valens. He erased him. Batman dumped every contract, every payment, every identity Valens had ever touched into the open net, scrubbed of encryption, cross-linked, time-stamped. Within minutes, Core traced money trails. Gangs realized they'd been sold out. Mercs discovered their anonymity was gone. Valens' empire collapsed in under an hour. Valens himself vanished. No one ever found him. The mercs didn't stop coming. If anything, they became more cautious, smarter, deadlier. Batman encountered a trio of veteran solos in Santo Domingo, former Militech operators with military-grade augmentations. They worked in silence, communicating through encrypted neural bursts, covering angles with machine precision. Batman allowed them to corner him in a construction zone. They fired. Smart rounds adjusted mid-flight. Explosives detonated at calculated distances. The ground shook. Batman absorbed the chaos, disappearing into smoke and debris. He disabled their targeting systems with localized EMP charges, then isolated them one by one. The last merc stood trembling, weapon useless. "I don't get it," he said. "Why not kill us? That's how this ends." Batman lowered him to the ground, unharmed. "No," Batman said. "That's how it continues." What truly broke the mercenary economy wasn't Batman's combat skill. It was unpredictability. He didn't behave like prey. He didn't escalate. He didn't reward violence with spectacle. Instead, he made mercenary work unreliable. Jobs failed without warning. Weapons malfunctioned at critical moments. Clients vanished mid-contract. Payments were frozen, rerouted, or exposed. Fixers lost trust. Mercs began refusing high-profile gigs, not because they feared Batman, but because they feared losing everything without even understanding how. In Night City, uncertainty was death. The turning point came with the Cyber Psycho. A heavily augmented Solo had snapped after a neural feedback loop fried his restraint protocols. He barricaded himself inside a mega block, killing anyone who came near. Militech prepared to level the building. Batman arrived first. He studied the Psycho from the shadows, watching erratic movements, overloaded cyberware, corrupted sensory input. This wasn't malice. It was collapse. Batman entered through the roof. The Psycho attacked instantly, blades screaming, strength far beyond human limits. Batman didn't fight him head-on. He guided him, redirected strikes, used sonic dampeners to cut through neural noise, deployed tranquilizers calibrated to enhanced metabolisms. The fight lasted minutes. Batman pinned the Psycho to the floor, holding him down as the man screamed, terrified and confused. "It hurts," the Psycho sobbed. "Make it stop." Batman didn't hesitate. "I've got you," he said. He stabilized the cyberware manually, rerouting power, slowing feedback, shutting down aggressive subroutines. When NCPD arrived, they found the Psycho unconscious but alive, restrained, stable, breathing. Word spread. Batman didn't kill cyber psychos. He saved them. That single fact shattered something fundamental. Mercenaries began to hesitate. Gangs questioned orders. Civilians whispered. Batman wasn't just disrupting crime. He was exposing the lie at its core. That violence was the only language Night City understood. Fixers hated him for it. Core feared him for it. And mercs, they didn't know what to do with him. Arasaka adjusted again. They realized brute force wouldn't work. Neither would money. So they prepared something else. Something surgical. Netwatch initiated a full spectrum analysis, correlating every known Batman sighting, every disruption, every unexplained system failure. Militech provided hardware projections. Arasaka contributed behavioral modeling. They weren't trying to kill Batman anymore. They were trying to understand him. And once they did, they planned to break him where he was weakest. Not physically, psychologically. Batman stood alone on a rooftop as the city glowed beneath him. Mercenary chatter quieter than it had been in days. He felt the calm before the next escalation. "They're done testing me," he thought. "They're preparing." Batman vanished into the rain. And deep within Night City's corporate networks, a new file was opened. Project Dark Mirror Target. Batman. Objective: neutralize ideology. The city wasn't just fighting a man anymore. It was fighting what he represented. And Night City had never survived that kind of war before. Part Five. Cyberpsychosis and the line Batman won't cross Night City did not understand restraint. It understood escalation, retaliation, leverage, but not limits. Every problem here was solved by going further than the last time. Stronger chrome, bigger guns, fewer rules. Batman was the opposite of that philosophy, and that made him dangerous in ways the city had never encountered. The reports came in quietly at first. Cyberpsychos neutralized without fatalities. Victims stabilized instead of executed. Scenes where violence ended, not in silence, but in survival. NCPD didn't know how to categorize it. Netwatch flagged it as an anomaly. Corporations called it inefficient. Batman called it necessary. He encountered his first full-scale cyberpsychosis outbreak in Arroyo. A former construction worker, body rebuilt piece by piece to meet impossible quotas, had finally snapped. His cyberware glitched violently, flooding his nervous system with false threats and phantom pain. He tore through a warehouse district, killing anyone who came too close. Militech drones hovered overhead, feeding targeting data to an artillery unit 3 blocks away. Batman arrived seconds before the kill order was issued. He studied the man from a shadowed catwalk. Jerky movements, erratic breathing, weapons fused directly to bone. This wasn't rage, it was terror. Batman dropped silently behind him. The psycho turned instantly, sensors screaming. A cannon arm fired, ripping through concrete. Batman rolled, closing distance with disciplined precision. He didn't strike vitals, he targeted joints, power conduits, sensory inputs. The psycho screamed, not in anger, but confusion. "Make it stop," the man shouted. "They're everywhere!" Batman activated a neural stabilizer tuned during previous encounters. Experimental, risky, but precise. A low-frequency pulse washed over the man's cyberware, cutting through the noise. The psycho collapsed, sobbing. Batman restrained him gently. "I've got you," he said. "You're not alone." By the time NCPD arrived, the man was unconscious and stable, alive. That detail spread faster than any rumor. Batman didn't kill cyberpsychos. He treated them as victims. In Night City, that was heresy. Fixers were the first to react. Cyberpsychos were bad for business, but useful. Fear generators. Justifications for corporate force. Living warnings of what happened when people fell behind. Batman disrupted that narrative. He exposed the truth. Cyberpsychosis wasn't madness. It was burnout, overuse, overpressure. Systems pushed past safe limits until the human underneath collapsed. Batman leaked evidence, medical logs, corp memos, internal warnings ignored in favor of profit. He didn't release everything, just enough. People started asking questions. Core hated questions. Arasaka convened a closed session. On the table were projections, psychological profiles, behavioral models. "He refuses to kill," one analyst said, "even when lethal force would be justified." "That's a weakness," another replied. A third shook their head. "No, it's a rule." Silence followed. Rules were exploitable. Project Dark Mirror accelerated. Instead of sending soldiers, Arasaka sent information. They leaked curated data, false but plausible, designed to strike at Batman's psychology. Reports of innocents harmed during his interventions. Edited footage suggesting mercenaries he spared went on to kill civilians. Simulated scenarios fed into public networks. Batman noticed immediately. The city's narrative shifted. Whispers followed him now, not of hope, but doubt. Maybe he makes it worse. Maybe people die because he doesn't finish the job. Maybe mercy is just another kind of ego. Batman absorbed it all in silence. He'd heard it before, in Gotham. The real test came in Japantown, a cyberpsycho unlike the others. Former Arasaka security, prototype neural core, failsafes stripped. He barricaded himself in a crowded market plaza, weapons integrated directly into his spine, hostages everywhere. Arasaka issued the kill order instantly. Batman arrived moments later. The psycho recognized him. "You won't kill me," he said, laughing through distorted audio. "They told me about you." Batman stepped forward slowly. "You don't want this," Batman said. "I don't want anything anymore." The Psycho triggered a dead man protocol. If his vitals dropped, everything detonated. Batman froze. Arasaka's trap was elegant. Kill him, innocents die. Hesitate. He kills more, fail, and the city blames Batman. Batman analyzed the man in seconds. The neural core was unstable, overheating, seconds from catastrophic failure. Batman made a decision. He stepped closer. The Psycho hesitated. Batman placed his hand on the man's chest, right over the core. "Listen to me," Batman said. "You're still here. I know it hurts. I know they broke you. But this doesn't end with more bodies." The Psycho shook violently. "You're lying." Batman lowered his voice. "So are they." He overloaded the stabilizer, far beyond safe parameters, routing the feedback into his own suit systems. Pain surged through him, every sensor screaming. He held steady. The core cooled. The detonation sequence aborted. The Psycho collapsed. Batman fell to one knee, alive. Arasaka lost their kill narrative. Public feeds caught fragments of the scene. Batman holding a broken man instead of striking him down. Something shifted. Not hope. Something quieter. Recognition. Batman retreated to a derelict building afterward. Armor scorched. Systems strained. For the first time since arriving, he allowed himself to sit. He reviewed the data. The city was reacting, not changing. Reacting. That was enough for now. "You don't win by burning everything down," Bruce thought. "You win by giving people a reason not to." He knew Arasaka wouldn't stop. He knew they'd escalate, but he also knew something they didn't. They couldn't break him. Not by force, not by money, not by lies. Because the line he wouldn't cross, the refusal to kill, wasn't a weakness. It was the foundation. And in a city that had forgotten what limits looked like, Batman was about to remind them. Part 6. War with Arasaka and Netwatch. Arasaka stopped pretending Batman was a criminal. Criminals could be bought. Criminals could be framed. Criminals could be erased quietly. Batman could not. So Arasaka reclassified him as something far more dangerous, a destabilizing force. The first sign of open war wasn't gunfire, it was silence. Entire sections of the net went dark without warning. Private networks, fixer channels, encrypted comms that even gangs depended on to survive. Netwatch rolled out emergency protocols under the justification of containment, but Batman recognized it immediately. Digital martial law. Netwatch didn't hunt criminals. They hunted threats to systems, and Batman had become one. He felt it the moment he tried to access a familiar back door. The connection snapped shut violently, flooding his systems with counter-intrusion code designed to trap, isolate, and map hostile entities. Batman severed the link manually, rerouting through analog backups before Netwatch could triangulate his position. They're not reacting anymore, Bruce thought. They're planning. On a rooftop overlooking city center, Batman watched corporate convoys roll through streets once ruled by gangs, heavily armored transports, signal jammers, Netwatch mobile units with deep dive rigs glowing faintly inside reinforced vans. Arasaka and Netwatch were no longer competing. They were cooperating. That meant something had frightened them enough to align interests. Batman smiled grimly. The first strike came from Netwatch, not physically, digitally. Batman infiltrated an Arasaka data hub in Charter Hill, one he'd breached twice before without resistance. This time, the moment he crossed the threshold, reality shifted. The lights dimmed, his HUD distorted, latency spiked, a Netwatch trap, his cowl flooded with false sensory data. Echoes of screams, phantom heat signatures, simulated threats moving just beyond his vision. Neural pressure built steadily, not enough to incapacitate him, but enough to distract. Psychological warfare, Batman muttered. He shut down non-essential systems and grounded himself, slowing his breathing, anchoring his mind the same way he had against fear, toxins, and Gotham. The illusions peeled away. Netwatch operators panicked. Batman moved. He ripped open a maintenance panel, bypassed the hub physically, and injected a counter-algorithm designed to expose Netwatch's shadow infrastructure. By the time he left, 3 covert surveillance nodes were compromised. Netwatch learned something important that night. Batman could fight in their domain. Arasaka escalated next. They deployed kill teams, not mercs, not security, but corporate assassins trained specifically for psychological dismantling. They didn't engage directly. They followed, they studied, they waited. Batman noticed them within hours. They want to isolate me, he realized. Wear me down. The trap sprung in Japantown. Batman intercepted a gang extorting a street clinic when Arasaka sealed the district. Drones overhead, exits locked, communications jammed. Civilians panicked. The clinic staff barricaded themselves inside. Arasaka operatives closed in from all sides. Batman stood in the open. Clear the area, he ordered the civilians. Now, they didn't argue. They ran. The assassins attacked in coordinated silence. Blades, suppressed fire, neural disruptors tuned to overload unaugmented humans. Batman took the first hit square in the shoulder. Pain flared. He didn't slow. The fight was brutal, exhausting, relentless. These weren't mercs looking for profit. They were professionals trained to kill without hesitation. Batman adapted. He used their discipline against them. Forced breaks in formation turned kill zones into choke points. Disabled leaders first. He fought defensively, absorbing blows meant to exhaust him, buying time for civilians to escape. When the last assassin fell unconscious, Batman remained standing, bloodied, breathing hard, but unbroken. Arasaka had failed. Again, they changed tactics. Netwatch leaked Batman's digital footprint deliberately, false trails mixed with real ones. They wanted to flush him out, force him into the open, turn public perception against him. Reports flooded the net. Batman sightings linked to power outages. Batman present near corporate sabotage. Batman interfering with emergency services. All lies, but believable ones. Batman responded the only way he could, with truth. He broke into a Netwatch black site beneath Night City. It was a fortress of data and paranoia. Air-gapped servers, armed guards, neural sentries designed to fry intruders' minds. Batman bypassed it all. He didn't destroy the data. He exposed it. Illegal surveillance, unauthorized mind mapping, corporate assassinations disguised as accidents, entire neighborhoods monitored without consent. The leak went live for 30 seconds. Then Netwatch pulled the plug. 30 seconds was enough. The city erupted, not in riots, but in hesitation. Gangs paused operations. Fixers froze contracts. Corporations delayed moves. Fear shifted direction. For the first time, the Corps were being watched. Batman stood atop Arasaka Tower that night. Not inside, not attacking, just visible. A silhouette against the skyline. A message. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't running. He was daring them. Inside Arasaka's highest levels, the tone changed. This is no longer about control, an executive said quietly. It's about precedent. If he wins, he doesn't need to win, another interrupted. He just needs to survive. That realization chilled the room. Batman wasn't trying to destroy the system. He was proving it wasn't absolute. And systems built on inevitability collapse the moment inevitability is questioned. Netwatch prepared a final measure, a citywide neural lockdown, Temporary, surgical, devastating. Every implant, every neural link, every cybernetic enhancement would freeze for seconds. Seconds were enough to kill thousands. Batman detected the preparation instantly. He didn't have time to stop it conventionally. So he did something unexpected. He broadcast. Not a speech, a signal. A simple warning pushed through unsecured channels, through old hardware, through forgotten analog systems. Disconnect. Now. Some listened, some didn't. Batman moved faster than he ever had, manually disabling key transmission nodes, rerouting power, overloading relays. The lockdown triggered and failed. Not completely, but enough. Enough people disconnected. Enough lives spared. Netwatch aborted. Arasaka retreated. The war paused. Batman stood alone at dawn, overlooking a city that didn't know how close it had come to catastrophe. He felt the exhaustion deep in his bones. They'll try again, he thought, but not like this, because now they understood something crucial. They weren't fighting a vigilante, they were fighting a symbol of limits, and limits were contagious. Part 7. The Dark Night of Night City. Night City did not change overnight. It never did. The corporation still towered over the streets. The neon still burned through the smog. People still woke up every morning calculating how much of themselves they could afford to lose just to survive another day. But something had shifted. A pressure had been applied and then released. And Night City felt the absence. Batman stood on a rooftop overlooking the sprawl as dawn bled weakly through the clouds. The sun never fully broke through here. It filtered in fragments, distorted by pollution and glass, casting the city in dull gold and sickly orange. Below him, the streets moved more cautiously. Convoys rolled slower. Drones patrolled higher. Fixers spoke quieter. The city hadn't become safer, but it had become careful. That was new. Batman's armor bore the marks of the war. Scorched plating, cracked gauntlets, systems patched together with temporary fixes. He could repair it all. He always did. What mattered was the data scrolling through his cowl. Arasaka had pulled back. Netwatch had gone silent. Militech had suspended urban operations, pending reassessment. They hadn't surrendered. They had recalculated. Batman allowed himself a rare, controlled breath. In an abandoned mega building in Santo Domingo, a fixer stared at a blank hollow screen. No new contracts. Not because crime had stopped, but because no one wanted to be the next example. Gangs argued internally now. Mercs asked questions before accepting jobs. Some walked away entirely. Fear hadn't vanished. It had changed direction, and that terrified the people who profited from it. Batman didn't announce his departure. He never did. Instead, he spent his final night doing what he always did best, working quietly. He dismantled the last remnants of Project Dark Mirror, deleting psychological models designed to break him and anyone like him. He scrubbed false data trails still circulating through the net. He closed doors Arasaka hadn't realized were open. He left behind no signature, only consequences. Before dawn, Batman returned to the place where it had started. Watson, the same alley, the same damp concrete, the same flickering lights. A small memorial had appeared where someone had died weeks earlier. Candles, cheap flowers, a handwritten note taped to the wall. Batman stood there silently. This city was brutal. It devoured the weak. It rewarded cruelty. It punished hope. And yet, people still tried. That was enough. A sound behind him. Batman turned. A young woman stood at the edge of the alley, hesitation written across her face. No visible chrome, no weapons. "You're real," she said softly. Batman said nothing. "They say you don't kill," she continued. "That you go after the core. That you don't work for anyone." She swallowed. "Is that true?" Batman studied her for a moment. "Yes." Her shoulders slumped with something like relief. "Then, thank you." She turned and left before he could respond. Batman watched her disappear into the city. He didn't smile, but something eased. By sunrise, rumors spread again, not of a vigilante, not of a myth, but of a rule. If you push too far, the bat comes. Corporations dismissed it publicly. Privately, they updated contingency plans. Because they knew something now. Batman didn't need to stay. He had already done what he came to do. On a final rooftop, high above the city, Batman prepared to leave. Not through portals, not through explosions, just a simple extraction, quiet, controlled, unremarkable. As he activated the sequence, he looked out over Night City one last time. You don't need a hero, he thought. You need a reminder that systems could be challenged, that power could be resisted, that limits existed, even here. The grapnel fired. Batman vanished into the gray sky. Night City continued. Crime persisted. Corruption adapted. Corporations recovered. But somewhere deep in the city's digital architecture, in forgotten subsystems and corrupted caches, something remained. A hesitation. A pause before issuing certain orders. A delay before authorizing certain actions. A question that hadn't existed before. What if he comes back? No statues were built. No monuments raised. No headlines celebrated. That was fine. Batman didn't want gratitude. He wanted memory. And Night City would remember. Because in a city where everything was for sale, there had been one man who couldn't be bought, and that was enough to haunt it forever.